All right, so now what I'd like to do is integrate what we've learned in Node.js and integrate it in with what we've learned in GitHub. So we're going to create a GitHub repository and we're going to push it to GitHub. All right, so I'm going to, let's see, I'm still in listening mode here on my live server, so I'm going to Control-C and clear to get out of here. And so the first thing we need to do when we create a GitHub, a Git repository, is we need to initialize our project as Git. So git init, and we're going to create ourselves a Git repository. And what you'll find that's interesting is that all of our files are being tracked now by Git because everything turned green. And that seems well and good with one exception. If you think about all of these Node modules files that we have been accumulating when we installed Bootstrap and Light Server, that's a lot of files, and we only have 2 packages. The more packages you install, especially projects like Vue or React, this Node modules folder is going to just get enormous. And it seems like it would be a dumb idea for us to push that Node modules folder up into GitHub, especially since all we need to do is, if we have it locally, just install those packages that we need. So that's where a GitIgnore file comes into play. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new folder with the .gitignore. And the idea behind a GitIgnore file is exactly that. Hey Git, I got to spell it right. Let me spell it right here. GitIgnore. And that says everything that's in this file Git, I want you to ignore, which literally means I want to ignore the Node modules folder. So I'm going to type in here Node modules so that it'll just ignore that entire file altogether. And so I'm going to go ahead and save that. I think it saves automatically. And so right now nothing's, there it goes. So notice how my green went gray. So Git is not paying attention anymore. It's not going to stage those files and it's not going to push those files into GitHub, which is good news because I don't want to push all of those huge bloated files up to GitHub. So now that we've done that, we better create our README. So I'm going to create a README file, README, which is the documentation to my GitHub repository. readme.md, and in here then I'll do a hashtag, and I'll do my name, and I'll do a hashtag twice, and I will put in, this is my first Node project, and then you do more documentation accordingly, but we're just going to leave this here for now. So now I'm ready to go. So I'm going to git add asterisk or dot, which says stage all of the files. So it's staging all of the files except for my Node modules folder. And how do I know that? Well, let's look at git status, and you can see that my Node modules folder is not being staged for commit. Notice those Node modules folders are not here at all. So now I can do my git commit -m, and this is my initial commit. Excellent. All right. And so from here I can go ahead and push it up to GitHub. So just to be clear, and we've already hopefully gone through some of these before, I'm going to hit new to create a new repository, and I'm going to put in a repository name, first project, whatever you want it to be called, obviously. Description, self-explanatory, public, private, self-explanatory. You can change these things at any point during a repo's lifecycle. You don't have to pick one and have it be permanent, so just so you know that. Just to reiterate, we've already initialized a repository. We reinitialized it here in our local branch, in our local computer. You can initialize a file first in GitHub and then clone it down, but we did it from the local repository up. So therefore, we do not want to initialize this repository. We do not want to check add README. We've already created a README when we initialized it, but we already added a GitIgnore file. So we're not initializing it, we're simply creating a holding place so that we can push our files up to GitHub. All right, so now we can click on Create Repository, and it should do just that. So here is some information that GitHub is reminding us. Since you already created a repository on your command line, because that's what you said, you didn't initialize it here, you said you initialized it someplace else. It's just asking us just to be sure. All this is a command line version of what we created up here. All that's saying is echo, print to the command line, whatever's in the string, hashtag first project, we did hashtag our names, and then output that to a readme.md file. Well, we did that in Visual Studio Code, so we can check that off our list. We've already done a git init. We've already staged some files. we've already committed some files. And what this does then is there's still some confusion between what used to be master was the default branch, and now they've changed it to main being the default branch. So you want to make sure what branch am I currently on here in my local repository. And if I look at the status that was created, it says, when I did git status, it says that I'm currently using the branch main. So sometimes some of the older versions of Git will still use the older master as the default branch. Mine is using main, so I do not have to change my branch name. So this line is not necessary because my branch is already called main. All right, so this is how we connect our local repository to GitHub. So I'm going to copy that and put it into the command line. And then this is how we push our files from the local repository up to GitHub. So I'm going to copy that in here. And because we did this line, the Git knows where to find the GitHub repository. Notice that again, main has to match. So if you have a master branch instead of main, you want to make sure that origin is the variable name, if you will, for the GitHub repository. Main is the branch that you're currently working on. We've all agreed that we're on the main branch, so I'm going to make sure that word is main, and I'm going to hit the enter key, and it says that I've got an error, permission to markedly GitHub denied. So I'm not quite sure why that happened. So I'm going to put this on pause and figure it out. All right, so I wasn't logged in, that's why I got that error message. So I logged in back into GitHub off screen, and then I ran that command again, which was the git push command, which is, let's see, where did I end up doing it? Right here. So I get pushed again after I fixed my login, and I was able to get successfully pushed. So everything pushed up, and I can verify that here in GitHub, because if I do a refresh, then I should see there's my file. So it's successfully pushed. You just have to make sure that you're logged in, and I was not. So that was the error. This is the fix. And so now I am pushing to GitHub, and notice that I don't have those node modules folder. So in the next video, I'm going to show you, if you were on a different machine, what you would do then if I cloned these down. How do I get those node modules folders back? Well, we'll do that in the next video.